high as a kite. I'm walking down the aisle of the new Walgreens. It's much too bright. I'm cruising for some beer and a magazine. I'm feeling so light. I'm floating down the aisle of the new Walgreens. And not to be uptight, but I believe everybody here is staring at me. I try to keep my cool as I make my way to where they keep the brew. Too many brand names got me all confused. I grab the first quart bottle and make my move.
There he is.
Come on down.
Thanks so much for meeting me,
Yeah,
Ben.
sure, Dave. Hey,
Ben Hollis.
come on in.
Wow.
What a rig.
Oh,
Here's
my
your
gosh.
mirror.
Oh, thank you.
Look at that. There's our selfie.
Oh, there we go.
Hey!
Well,
cuckoo.
I'm learning from the best here. Thanks.
Let's hope this way. You're going to love it, whatever it is.
Oh, gosh.
You want a glass of water or anything?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay.
Before I forget, 8-time Emmy winner, I want to just throw that out there so I never forget.
Descend into the depths.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I tell you, I feel like I'm, you know how Jimmy Kimmel gets all tongue-tied when he's around David Letterman? I feel like I'm,
Oh, you're killing me.
when I came up with this idea of talking to people,
Uh-huh.
the first person I thought of was you and your approach of just
Whoa.
jumping into it. And I, because if I had to sit down at a desk like Charlie Rose, I would be like in flop sweat immediately,
Flop Sweat. That's my new show. Tonight on Flop Sweat. So you want to sit here?
Yeah, absolutely.
You set it up anyway.
No, you go ahead, because I want to just get a lay of the land here.
Sure.
This is great.
Sure.
You have your Vimeo page.
Yeah.
Oh, that's somebody's flag from the military.
Yeah. That's my father-in-law's. I mean,
wow.
he didn't die in service, but he was in the Navy for one. So was my father too.
Well, that's what I'd like to talk a little bit about. Oh my gosh, look at these artifacts. These should be in the Historical Society.
This is the original helmet.
Oh my gosh.
With a little dirt on it, and like you can see the edge there.
Wow.
This took some hits at the paintball place in Gurnee, probably in '91.
That's Smithsonian worthy, actually.
That's right. And then
this too.
This is the actual cube.
Wow.
And Mike, one of my buddies from the show, gave this to me.
Oh my gosh. You had a legitimate microphone back in that day, right? Those were...
Right. I never wore a clip-on or a lavalier. And it was attached... In the beginning, it had an actual cord to the sound man, because it was a two-man crew back then. And I think somewhere towards the end of the first season, or maybe it was the second season, or it might have even been the third season, but we got into the wireless age.
Oh.
And then it was a cube there, so it was operating on a radio signal. And then it became one guy. So the camera guy had extra stuff attached to him so that he could run audio too. And it was, the beginnings of the writing on the wall, which is now the reporter now is the shooter and the writer and the editor and does everything on the news stories.
Interesting.
Out in this field, yeah.
So wireless in the early 90s, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Amazing. It probably comes from all like military technology and everything.
Well, yeah, it's radio. It's
radio, yeah.
Signal. Because whenever you were downtown, you had to, the sound guy would say, okay, can we move over here just a little bit, because he's picking up RF, radio frequency, or something like that. But RF was this term, and RF meant he was getting static or picking up another signal from someplace else. Because downtown, there's a lot more stuff in the air, more radio stations, more cops, fire all operating on those radio
Sure.
waves. So,
Huh.
yeah.
Well, you had mentioned your father-in-law in the military, and your father. It sounds like your father was in the military as well.
Mhm.
Can you?
My father was in the Navy.
Hmm.
He was born in 1914. He died in 90. Jiminy Crickets. 92, 94, something like that. I forget, but he was in the Navy, and he was on a French ship as a communications officer, and his ship at the time of D-Day, June 6, 1944, was commissioned to go north up to Scotland, because the concern was, the Allies were concerned that the all-French crew would get too excited and want to jump ship and run back to their homeland to take care of their families. So he couldn't actually be a part of that. It was a troop transport ship. That's what it was.
Huh. So he was probably shuttling. Sounds like he may have been shuttling troops back and forth. Maybe.
Yeah. They were American troops, but ships from all the Allies were commissioned, and it was a French ship. Remember, it was called the Colombe, I think, Colombe. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And I think they would come into like Brest, France. Maybe that was
Could have been. Yeah, I mean, they definitely would. Yeah.
And drop off the troops, because it wasn't too long after World War I, and I know that was a common thing where there were like French and Australian battleships that the United States servicemen would be on. So, wow.
Yeah.
So okay, and so then you grew up out in New York, right? In Scarsdale, was it?
Yeah, until I was 11
years old.
Yeah. And then moved out here.
And then you came here.
Yep.
And is there any other family history that you'd be interested in sharing?
Well, it's kind of interesting. My mother was a writer too, who wrote 5 novels, and none of them were published because she just sat on them, because she was afraid that people would recognize themselves in her books and then be mad at her or want to come after her or something. So this amazing storehouse of creativity and energy, and it's just sitting around now. So, yeah.
There's a through line then with that thought. I mean, I don't want to jump ahead too far, but sort of like in The Treasure, where you were saying how you'd like people to see themselves through your project.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like that was what she was afraid of.
Oh yeah.
In her work.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, novels are. It's funny. I'm telling my story on my show or in my movie, The Treasure.
Mm-hmm.
She was telling part of her story, but she was also telling the story of her parents, her husband, my father, the 3 kids, and other family members too, and probably neighbors as well. So. Can be touchy, she might have known somebody who, got excoriated for writing something that somebody didn't like. I don't know.
And you have these works.
I've got one of them in the house, and then my sister has 4 other novels at her place in Miami. My mother was published a couple of short stories, so that was cool. And she went to writers' conferences, and she got some nice compliments from some big-time writers. So she's definitely talented. And they both had good senses of humor and made crazy faces.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would think there'd be a demand for seeing her presence towards the end of The Treasure is just incredible.
Yeah.
That story, the way it builds and it crescendos at the end, it just really is an emotional wallop at the end. It really is, it's won an award, right? You were at the Chautauqua
Silver Award, 2nd place. Chautauqua, New York International Film Festival, inspirational film category.
It really is. And I would have, you pulled that together in 3.5 months. I would have thought, with all the footage in all the shows that you've created, it would have been hard to grab, but you did it.
And it came to me, it was like, boy, if I can say to somebody wondering, what to do, like, just do the next thing that's in front of you. I got a friend, Bob Hercules, excellent filmmaker, documentarian. A lot of his films have been on Channel 11 and PBS in general. He did one on Maya Angelou and a lot of big people. Anyway, I said, I got all this footage and I don't know what to do with it. What do you think? And he said, well, why don't you just take like one tape and digitize it, and then see if you can put down 5 minutes of something on the timeline and just see if you can make something work. And I took that advice, and that was the beginning. So when I began, I didn't know how long it would be, what the scope would be, not even totally what it was about, although I did have a theme, which was the theme of like, I think I know who I am, but who do you think I am? How do you experience me? And is there some middle ground? And then if you want to get more cosmic, if there's a higher power, what does my higher power think of what I am, who I am? So it went, so it went like that, because I had all these interviews of friends and people, family members, asking them the question, so who's Ben Hollis?
Yeah.
And those were the tapes that were sitting on the shelf for about 11 years, waiting for something to happen, waiting for me to have time to work on them. And then the epidemic struck, or the pandemic struck, and then I said, oh, I got time.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but how can I then mix in all that other stuff? So when I put the movie together in 3.5 months, whatever I said it was, you could also say, well, it took 40 years to make the movie.
Yeah. Well, and you, like you said, it was almost like you knew this was gonna be a project at some point, because you started it in 2009.
Yeah.
By asking your friends that I don't think there are many people that could have pulled that off or would even think of, because you're in a vulnerable position when you're asking your best friends, like, what do you think of me?
Believe me, there were some people I didn't ask, like my first wife.
Yeah.
But I don't think she would go on camera anyway.
Right.
And then at the end, all those interviews were from 2008 and 2009, with the exception of one, and that was, of course, when I was in the process of making the film, and it was almost over. I said to myself, there's one person I haven't talked to who I could very easily. That's Julia, my wife.
Right. Yes.
So she got the last word in the movie too.
Yeah. Well, that was really a spectacular piece, and
Thank you.
Yeah. So you moved here when you were 11, and you went to the Latin school, and what was your growing up, and then you went to college, and that was in the early 70s. You went out to George Washington University.
Wow.
Yeah, and a lot of this is in the treasure. Yeah.
What I have for breakfast this morning.
Yeah. But there was a I get the sense that you were maybe a little introverted, and because there's a scene in the treasure where you talk about Stork, your friend Stork, and how when you heard the footsteps of Stork and his father coming down the hall to meet you.
Yeah, first day of college.
Yeah. You were just a little scared, and you jumped on your bed and pretended like you were asleep.
That's right. That's right. A great move.
Yeah. But then I want to know,
Have you ever faked sleep, ladies and gentlemen? And when and why? Okay.
But there's another part where you talk about your first night out, basically down the main quad. There's a party and there's beer and stuff, and you're the life of the party. You're drinking beer. You're getting a buzz. You've made all these friends. I'd like to know the span of time between when you faked sleeping in front of your new roommate to when you were walking up and down the quad drinking beer, making all those friends.
It might have been the same day.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
there were no classes. Classes weren't going to start for a few more days. The frat row, they're all open for business. It was a heady time to go out there and go crazy, you know.
Yeah, you went from one extreme to the other in probably the span of a few hours.
Well, I needed to find my people.
Yeah.
And also lubricated by a little bit of alcohol.
Sure.
It was amazing. Like, I was no big drinker in high school at all. My first drink was at my sister's wedding reception. And I remember I was 16, and I remember having a Tom Collins or maybe just a gin and tonic, something the bartender could make that was sort of like a kiddie drink. And I just suddenly felt like I could do anything. I could talk to anybody. Somebody handed me a cigar, so I'm walking around with a drink and a cigar at 16, talking to everybody. And I thought, oh, now I know what Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon are up to. Yeah, no wonder these guys are having such a good time. You know?
Yeah.
So.
But definitely, like, serves its purpose, I think, in an earlier, like, the social anxiety.
It helps a lot.
Yeah.
It's just the danger is if you have a proclivity
Yeah.
to become alcoholic, it can be the beginning of that.
Yeah.
And you might not even know it.
Yeah.
So.
It's insidious, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm 3 years, alcohol. I've kind of just stopped, and I started with the COVID. It just was like, I'll do a dry COVID, right? And I just kept it going. And I was at the Cubs game with another friend of mine the other day, and he's doing the same thing. And,
wow.
It's like a personality. I was talking to him, it's like our personalities are the same. You would think that you'd be, I think friends are sort of like, oh, why are you doing that? Or, they think you're going to be different, or you're not going to be the fun Ben or the fun Dave anymore. But I think it's just
but you found
the same
that not
person.
to be true, right?
Yeah, or like my wife's like, you're even crazier than you were before.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
that's my experience.
Right.
Yeah, and I haven't had a drink since '92.
Wow.
So,
holy moly.
Yeah, and I don't miss it. I don't miss it. No. Yeah.
Well, you also, I know you volunteer. You donate your time to help former addicts and things like that. Are you still? Is that part of your?
Sure. I'm just
giving
active.
back?
I'm active with helping people get started in a new life of freedom from whatever it was that was they were hurting themselves by using.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure.
Huh. So then you're in college, and I love your interactions with all your friends in the movie, Stork, and in particular, he's your roommate, right?
My first roommate.
Yeah.
I went to sleep because I was scared to death. I hadn't had a roommate. I'd never been in a one-on-one roommate situation. I'd been in a tent with some other guys at camp, but very close, one guy,
Yeah.
And I didn't have the greatest self-esteem back then. I was about 205 pounds at that point. And so.
And you were you guys did things together. You guys were in this like a band or comic musical thing.
Later on,
and so.
We had a band called the Dogmatics.
That's right, yeah.
We were way ahead of our time. We were sort of like a cross between Weird Al and Frank Zappa.
Oh, that's
we
awesome.
Had great musicians. And we were doing song parodies.
Whoa.
And Weird Al was starting out right about the same time. And it was, we had a nice little following in Washington, D.C. So.
Whoa, really? Did you ever record anything back then of that? Wow.
We have a live recording.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you're like a Renaissance man, polymath. you excel in so many different artistic avenues. You know, you're a great musician. You've got a great voice. I mean, your songs are on Spotify, Amazon Music, and you know, I mean, your one song, just a reference to High as a Kite, I think it is.
Yeah.
Another person I interviewed, Sid Yiddish, one of his standards is Where's Walgreens? And you mentioned Walgreens in one of your songs. So I was like, I was kind of hoping there'd be a guitar somewhere down here that maybe we could.
Wrong room.
Yeah, wrong room. I was also hoping maybe, is Pluto still around?
You know, Pluto, I actually gave away to a friend's or a high school acquaintance's wife, who was a mad lover of stuffed animals.
Oh, perfect.
And Nancy was her name, and she and I was in a place where we were moving. We were leaving a bigger house in Andersonville to move up to Evanston to a small house, and I was in a good mode of letting go of a lot of stuff.
Oh, great.
So I gave away Pluto for her to take care of. And sadly, Nancy got ill and passed away.
Oh.
So I wonder sometimes, where's Pluto? You know?
Yeah.
Is Scott, Scott taking good care of him?
Yeah. Pluto, by the way, is your stuffed animal that
stuffed dog. Yeah.
Was a big part of Rent a Friend, the video.
Yeah, he was in there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, this is a riot. This is your life. Whoa.
Yeah. You know, so
maybe two people will be interested in this.
No, I no, not at all. Because everyone, like, when we talked a couple days ago to coordinate this, I've mentioned your name to a few people, and they're all like, "Oh my gosh, I love Ben Hollis. I love what."
They all young guys like you.
Oh gosh, I'm almost 60, so I'm right behind you. Yeah, I'll be 60 in November. So.
You're killing me.
Yeah.
Holy
Thank you.
Toledo.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I know we're jumping around.
Yeah.
But one of the Wild Chicagos you did was at Oakton College, and you were playing with Dave Schultz, I believe.
Oh,
you were on the Cubs.
Yeah. Yes.
And one of the guys in the lineup was Gunther, and was that Ed Gunther, by the way?
Yeah.
He's running the 65 Giants that just won the championship.
They did?
Yeah, and the last guy I interviewed was Max Rising, who runs that league for the last 20 or 30 years.
Oh.
So why aren't you out there on the field with us all?
Man. I had 3 years starting, I think, like at 48 or 49.
Yeah.
And after my third season, as in the off season, I just had this intuition that said, it's time to put the glove down.
Really?
You're going to get injured if you go back out there again, So I passed,
Well,
now I thought about going back, especially now that I'm older, and there's a 65 and older
65.
league. Yeah.
Now, if you watch, my last interview was Max Rising. It's about an hour and a half. We filmed it in 3 locations. We were at Wrigley, and then we did a chunk at Oakton.
Yeah.
And then we finished up at Bensonville, which is one of our leagues, one of our stadiums. And
so you play too?
I play. I've been in the league since 06. Now I'm on the 52 Rockies.
Yeah.
But the 65 league plays on Wednesdays at like noon or 3. So they play during the week. Daytime.
Whoa.
Yeah. And, because the nighttime games can be kind of a drag going out to Oakton or whatever, or rush hour traffic.
Yeah.
So I'm just throwing it out there. We'd love to have you back. I mean, oh my God.
So where are the games in this league? 65?
I think
games?
most of them are at Bensonville.
Really? That's not too far.
Have you ever played there? It's a great field.
Really?
John G. Giles Field. And it's that and Oakton are our top fields.
Yeah.
I actually prefer Bensonville over Oakton. It's phenomenal. You would love it. I mean,
that piece was from Ben Loves Chicago, by the way.
Oh, that was.
Hey, you know what? In this next segment, I'm going to give you an intimate look into a part of my life maybe you don't know anything about. I'm a proud member of the Chicago Cubs. The over 40 Cubs, that is. Hey, Harry, tell us who you are.
What's happening? David Schultz. I'm the manager of this band of renegades. Got a good lead?
Dave Schultz, #1 shortstop. How are we like the Major League Cubs?
See, I think this is the extent of it. No, we play on the same field dimensions. The ball's the same. Everything's the same. Just it's at a little slower pace.
Remember, we're over 40, folks. I'm Ben Hollis with Ben Loves Chicago on Channel 50. Can we talk to you for a second?
Can I get my hat?
Oh, this is my grandson. He used to babysit for me.
Who's the oldest guy in the league?
I'm the oldest regular player.
You are, how old are you?
I'm 62 and a half.
We had an infield. Third baseman was 61, shortstop was 51, second baseman was 48, and the first baseman was 62 and a half.
So are you going to join the league next year?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
That was impressive, Bob. Crane 9, Zorich 10, Hollis 11, Loescher 12, and Gunther 13. Everybody bats. That's another difference.
Line drive. Another biscuit for breakfast. That one would have been out of here.
Wait a minute. Terry Carey and Steve Stone, what are they doing here?
Bobby Bonilla drifts in and puts her glove on it to retire the side.
What about the importance of baseball in your life and how it's good for guys our age, huh?
Well, I've been playing ball all my life, over 30 years. I love hardball. I hate softball with a passion. I'm out here for the love of the game.
We try just as hard. We get hurt probably a little more frequently. And we probably love the game more, actually.
I live in Cave Creek, Arizona right now. I'm commuting back and forth to play baseball with these guys.
How do you manage to do that? A lot of money, huh?
No, nothing else. My wife works for America West Airlines. She's a ticket agent there, and I get fly standby.
What is baseball for you?
Oh, it's like more fun than anything else.
What do you do for a living, Bill?
Computers. I teach 8th grade math. I'm a cop. Work for the Cook County Sheriff's Police Department.
And Dan, what do you do for a living?
I'm a cop. Hey, Dan, why is it that cops like donuts so much?
Donuts? I've never had a donut in my life. Nobody else. We need rum.
What's with the holes in the pants there? How'd you get
I
that?
come from a very poor family.
Yeah. Boy, you hit the ball like a bullet.
Hey, go Cubs!
Now batting for the Cubs, Ben Hollis, the first baseman. Pretty good-looking swinger, this Hollis is. Pitch. Takes a little ball one.
This was one of our top rookies, by the way.
Check of the runners on the pitch. Here it is. Tech foul.
Speed and arm strength diminished, but hitting the ball is the last thing to go.
Cub Scout troop 511 from Arlington Heights out with her group enjoying the ball. There's a line drive in the center field, Mike. That's a baseman.
We have 10 runs. They only have 1.
Cubs certainly brought their bats to the ballpark tonight, Harry.
What do these guys talk about normally when the camera's not around?
It ain't about baseball. Everything but baseball.
They told me I'm not supposed to give you the same, but you know how I listen to Dave.
Women? Everything but baseball and women. These are old guys now. Come on.
Okay, Wilbur.
You know, I had some Mexican food before I came to the game. I stopped at Taco Bell. I got a couple of nachos Belgrandes, a couple of those bean burritos, and a Dr. Pepper, I believe. Barry Larkin's up with it here in beautiful Des Plaines, Illinois. Oakton Community College.
And if you want to get involved in over 40 baseball, what do you do?
Dial 847-292-7700. That's our league hotline.
Come on, Harry, it's been a long night. Let's hit the road.
Now that's enough for tonight, fellas. After all, I'm only getting a lousy cold bottle of beer for this.
Ben, okay.
Yeah, and it also featured people who I don't even know their names now. Actually, it was one guy who did the impression of Harry Carey.
Oh, he was phenomenal.
And Steve Stone.
Yeah,
One
oh,
guy.
he did Stoney too?
Yeah.
You know what I thought? I thought you took a voiceover. I thought you took a clip from a game for Steve Stone. That was incredible.
Yeah.
He did Stoney too.
Yeah, I wish I knew. I know I could remember who that is, but
Was he on your team or something?
I think he was on the team somehow. Yeah, although he should have been on the field, but
Oh, he was amazing.
yeah,
Just amazing.
maybe he was somebody's friend or something. But yeah,
Yeah, there was Zorich was another guy, I think.
yeah, he was on the other team, and he was the big star of the league, I think.
That same sounds familiar, yeah.
I think he might have even been up for a cup of coffee, like they say.
Whoa, yeah, there's a few in our league that,
Yeah.
you know, a couple years ago, because we were on the Cubs too. I was on the Cubs until a few years ago. Probably
Was Dave Schultz still there?
I think he's still there.
Managing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's still. I think he's one of the commissioners still in the league.
Okay.
I think. Or, well, I know Ed Gunther is. I'm
Yeah.
not sure about Schultz, but yeah, that was really. I remember seeing that for the first time. I think when it first came out, and that was one of the. I was like, oh wow, that's really cool. I was playing in a city league, all ages, and then I eventually, when I was about 38 or so, I came over, and I've been there ever since. And one year we had, like you said, we had 6 guys on our team that had played minor league ball. And there are some former major league pitchers in our league too.
Yeah.
And that's always fun to go up against them. You know?
Fun.
So
Wasn't it Ed the guy who said they have 2 runs, we have 10?
yeah, 10 runs, right.
Wasn't that Ed?
Yes, I think
thought
so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So, and then just talk while we're still on the Wild and Ben Loves Chicago. What is also fun, a lot of these are online, so you can still go and find some of these. And I've really enjoyed watching them and then searching, like, whatever happened to this or whatever happened to this person. Or and one segment you did, it was a dance supply company in Andersonville. You're probably living up there then.
Yeah.
She was just elected alderwoman.
That's right. Oh, she won?
She won, yeah.
All right. Lenny,
Yeah.
Lenny, I think.
Lenny, right?
Hoppenworth,
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
She won. It was an upset.
Hot diggity.
Yeah, isn't that
she
great?
owes it all to me.
Yeah.
Hey, Chicago Dance Supply. We're at 5301 North Clark Street at the corner of Clark and Berwyn.
Yeah, right. Right.
See, now that's an example of a video I did as an independent, selling my wares sometimes through a chamber of commerce or directly to a small business and saying, let me do a story in the Wild Chicago style on your place.
Yeah.
And it works out great. She had a great place for it.
Well, what's amazing is you have a lot of these interspersed with your
other ones
on your Vimeo. Right.
Yeah.
And they're all entertaining. I mean, no one, I can't think of anyone else who could make Motorola News fun except for you. You know? I mean, but a lot of these corporate, like you did a lot of profile on Berwyn businesses.
Yes, they were great clients.
Yeah. And the neighborhood associations.
Yeah.
And you've done like
Lakeview, Wheeling.
Yeah. Who was another Wheeling? Yeah, they did like a big sausage fest or something.
Oh, that was the
beer fest.
That was Lake County Craft Beer Festival.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that piece.
That was great.
Beer Fest, yeah.
Yeah. And so you've got and then it looked like you did some, like there was a wedding called Benna. That
you saw that?
Yeah,
that's my nephew.
Oh, that was great. It reminded me of did you ever see The Shrink Next Door with Will Ferrell and Paul Rudd?
So, no.
But how they bring the bus in, it reminded me of that little. It was like a 6 episode.
Oh yeah, there's a little bus action on that.
Yeah, right.
It begins with the bus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sure, I was just shooting for the good of my heart. You know, that's so fun. It's up there though. Yeah.
Well, it's great that you were able to turn your passion for what you do into a commercial venture, and
yeah, very fortunate.
You know, and it's a certain sensibility, you know, so people know that they're going to have an entertaining product at the end, you know, with what you're doing, and yeah. So now, okay, we'll go back to chronologically here. Okay.
You don't edit any of this, do you?
I can, yeah.
But I mean, I just wonder. I don't care what you do, but I just wondered, like, it's because it's the interview itself is so loose and organic, but it's also going to be long.
It will be long.
Yeah.
So. It's going to be an hour, probably.
Okay.
So yeah, it's sort of long, and well, that's one thing about your stuff. You know, you're, like you said, you're talented comedian, musician, singer, but you're also a great editor of your pieces.
Thanks. Yeah.
You know, I don't think, you know, that may go under the radar, but I think you know how to hold a viewer's attention, which is really, I think, an amazing skill. Whereas these are kind of like, you have to really want to watch them.
Right. So you said I learned how to hold the viewer's attention because my life depended on it since I was a little baby.
I love
Look at this, Ma. I'm joking.
I love that, Steve.
I said I'm joking.
I love that, like, 2-second clip of you. I don't know what the heck you're wearing, but you're holding like an Uzi, and it's like a St. Valentine's Day massacre.
I'm Cupid.
You're Cupid.
You want chocolate? I'll give you chocolate. And I'm machine gunning down these guys lined up in front of the Valentine's Day massacre site.
That's right.
For our Valentine's Day special on Ben Loves Chicago. That's one of my favorite moments.
Oh, it's hilarious.
And I'm wearing curly hues and stuff. And that show begins by saying, "Hi, I'm Bob Surratt." And it's just because it struck me funny because he had long curly hair back then. So anyway. And today, I'd probably think twice about that with all the gun violence and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that you know, we know it's funny, but it's, you know, it's very not funny to a certain viewer as well.
Yeah.
It's just too dangerous. Can't put that stuff out there.
Speaking of Bob Surratt, there was an interview I heard with he and Marianne did with John Davies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Recently?
It was about 10 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
So you had started Wild Chicago. You were the co-creator, right, with John Davies?
With John Davies, yeah.
And it sounded like he had gone out to Hollywood and was pitching ideas, and you talked about that whole process. And I was like, wow, that is really interesting. To be in that realm. I don't know if it might be kind of old after a while, maybe, but
well, he didn't just pitch. He scored on a lot of some of those pitches too, and got to produce. I'm not sure what his exact title was for these projects, but he got to work on quite a few nice ones. You know, network shows and stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He did one with a rapper. It was like a real life reality show, the rapper and his family or something. I'm not up on it, so I can't give you the title, but he a long time been involved with a Johnny Carson series that Bill Zemi, who just passed away, was integral in as well. I mean, Bill was able to interview Johnny. I think the only person who ever interviewed Johnny at a particular level of intimacy after he retired, and I guess this series was somehow he was definitely a part of it. Maybe from his book. I think he wrote a book too about Carson.
Well, he was. I think this interview was right before he was working on that. I think. I think he was. He had mentioned that it was in the works and it was going to come out, and they were talking about like who could be a good Johnny. Like, should we find one person to play all the decades of his life, or maybe different people? So I've never. That's out there too, huh? That's.
I don't know if it ever got made.
Oh, maybe it didn't.
Or maybe it got made and never came out. And I remember the name of the show. It was Run's House.
Oh, wow.
With Run, DMC or something?
Oh, yeah.
Who I think he became a preacher too or something.
That sounds right.
But it was Run's House.
Yeah. He said he would like pitch if he did 6 pitches and got 2 of them. That would be an awesome
That would be
thing.
great, yeah.
Did you ever get involved in that too? I mean, did you have it sounds like once you made your mark, you were able to kind of carry that, what you've done forward. You didn't really have to.
Well, I had ideas for shows. In fact, I was just thinking about one the other day. When I left Wild Chicago, I took some time off and I had this idea of doing a series for kids, connecting kids through the use of video messages, video pen pals. So it's called Video Pen Pals International, VIPI. And I went out to the South Pacific and I interviewed a bunch of kids. I was never on camera, well, except in the beginning, introducing the thing. But I made a pilot.
Wow.
But what I would show the kids videos of kids in Chicago. I encourage the kids in Chicago, ask questions and pretend like the person is listening and watching on the other end. And so they would and you kind of, I don't know exactly where I'm going, so you gotta have to be kind of general, but you can say, I just want to know what's your school like, or what are you interested in? I mean, it was like ahead of its time, because this is what kids are doing every day around the world with FaceTime and everything else that's available to them. But this was actually going to be a show that just showed you the various back and forths, and hopefully could become a larger thing with the actual snail mailing of video cassettes through the mail. But more complicated than it could ever. I don't know.
Wow.
It's too big. I pitched it. I showed it to one person who had some experience in American TV, and she said, "It's not going to fly here. It's too smart."
In the South Pacific?
No, that was a Chicago producer.
Oh, it's too smart. That makes sense. Yeah.
Like it's, you gotta like pump it up or dumb it down, or do something, sensationalize it for an American audience.
Well, it's kind of how Netflix started, right? Maybe they would just mail you movies, so you'd be shipping out a VHS tape or whatever.
Yeah.
It's sort of, I mean, you were ahead of your time in a lot of realms. It sounds like post-collegiate, you were doing comedy, you were doing music, you were doing all these things.
Yeah.
You were hosting a live sort of late night, or not late night?
Not late night with Ben Hollis,
Yeah.
The talk show that's not on TV.
Yeah.
And I had guests like Jonathan Brandmeier.
Oh, wow.
My first guest was Irv Kupcinet.
Holy cow.
You know Irv.
Yeah, absolutely.
Younger crowd won't, but he was a huge influential columnist who knew everybody. And if you wanted to make it in town, you wanted to get into his column.
Jeez. And that was your first guest. That was like your Bill Murray on David Letterman, your first guest.
Oh, yeah. It's
Wow.
funny you mentioned Murray, because I don't know whether you've ever seen this thing about, maybe it's on Netflix, of Bill Murray, how he would just like drop in at weddings.
Oh.
Have you heard about this?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
He's truly an everyman. I just loved that he did that. And by the way, this guy Irv Kupcinet, who was a columnist at the Sun-Times, had a talk show on Channel 11, and he did reports on the news about celebrities. Anyway, my first guest, and I researched him kind of like I think you must have researched me. And oh man, that interview tanked. It was like I was just nervous, and then he started like saying, "Come on, Ben, pick it up, right in front of the audience," and I just so I hated that, and I didn't think he was that good anyway.
Yeah, that's wow. Yeah.
But he was an important guy, and I think I respect him more now. The colossal amount of work he must have done.
Yeah.
He was famous too for could walk into any restaurant and never pay for a meal.
Wow.
But I loved his talk show concept because it was a very freewheeling kind of a thing, and he'd have celebrities there, but the idea was not to talk about their careers, but talk about things that are happening in the culture and the news. And so you could hear different points of view from people who you would be surprised that they spoke the way they did about things. Another guy, David Susskind, I think might have pioneered this method with a show called Open End back in New York. And Cup Show like Open End, had no ending time to it.
Huh.
They knew they'd start at a certain time, but they'd go as long as they wanted to go.
Wow. I wonder if there's any of those out there. Like if you could buy a compilation of or see those old interviews somehow. I wonder.
I bet you can.
That's interesting. I knew the name, but I'd never seen. I don't think I've ever seen or heard Kupcinet. Kup.
Yeah.
And he wrote a column too, right? I mean, it was part.
Yeah. Kup's column. Well, Susskind is the name too.
That's another one.
Susskind.
Yeah.
David Susskind.
It's kind of like when Letterman interviewed. Who was the guy that was like?
Snyder?
No, it was another. It was 60 Minutes. Whatever, he's got that kind of high.
Andy Rooney.
And he just loved Andy Rooney, and he came on. I don't know if you've ever seen that interview of Andy Rooney.
No.
I think Letterman actually got up and walked away at some point. He was just appalled at how just rude Andy Rooney was.
Really?
It's worth finding because he just had Andy Rooney up on this pedestal, and he just turned out to be a real jerk on the show. It
That's
was
what
like,
they say. It's dangerous to meet
yeah,
heroes.
yeah. But wow. So you're doing. Sounds like you were trying to find your place in the 80s, early 80s, working your craft, learning your skills, and then the Rent-A-Friend came about, right?
Yeah.
Was that, I mean...
Yeah, that was in, we shot it in 86, and it came out in 87. Oh no, it came out in 86, late 86, December, but 87 was the year that it got all this attention. And it was it was the era of blockbuster video, so there was a video for everything. There were exercise videos, Jane Fonda video of exercises, and cooking, and any niche had its own video. And I just thought, while researching the video market for this corporate video job I had.
So you had a corporate job at that point?
Yeah, I was working for a company.
How long were you there? What was it?
That was only about a year.
Okay.
I was about 3 years into a big transition from, local showbiz to, gonna get a straight job. And I was a copywriter, and I was in an ad agency for a while.
From like 83 to 86, and right in there.
Yeah, 80 probably the first job I think was in 84.
Okay.
So 84, 85, 86, and 87, and 88. In like 5 years.
Oh wow! So you did give it the corporate world a whirl.
Yeah. But this Rent-A-Friend, it was just so I did it while working for the company, and the company had some money at the end of the year and said, "We got enough money to do like a small production, just to show maybe we can do something kind of creative and wacky that can show how creative we are to our prospects." So I said, "Well, how about a friend? Rent a friend."
Whoa!
And he talks to you and he listens to you, and maybe that would work. And first they thought I was joking. I said, "I'm not joking.
Wow!
I could play the guy."
Yeah.
Because I saw an opportunity, because I'd been away from showbiz for a while, and I thought, "Oh my God, a chance to, work out in front of the camera and bring all my own stuff was just exciting." And I'd never done anything like it before anyway. I had an improv background, but that's what we did. So it was 42 minutes of me being your best friend. And just to fast forward millions of years later, these two guys out of New York have an entertainment they call the Found Footage Festival. And they find wacky videos from the 80s, and they take clips of them and put them together, and then put them together for a live audience, and they make funny comments about the show while they're showing these things. And I loved the sound of that when they came to Chicago to the Southport, the Music Box Theater. And I visited and saw the show, and I came up afterwards and I said to the guy, one of the guys, Nick Brewer, I said, you got to, have you ever heard of Rent a Friend? You should see this.
Mm-hmm.
And he acted like he'd never seen it or something, or maybe he'd heard of it or something. And they liked it a lot, and then they put it into their show.
Oh, wow.
So now it travels around the world with these guys, and they've helped me sell a few copies and kind of revisit an idea. And man, friendship is a hot topic right now. I just saw something about an article with the title within the title. It was speaking of the friendship recession, and and COVID and all that had a lot to do with it. A lot of people were in crisis because they realized, oh shit, I don't have any close friends to talk to. So anyway.
Well, that's sort of like in the same line of your idea with the kids, you know, it's sort of like connecting them. Yeah.
There's a connection there, and there's a connection with the treasure. There's a through line as I look at the whole career of like connecting with people.
Yeah.
And through me, you know, somehow facilitating that.
Yeah. You know, because I had heard that, I was kind of curious how you were able to, I had heard that it was like a $10,000 to get that studio time. I was like, how did you pull that together? Now it makes sense that
For Rent a Friend?
Yeah, now you had a corporate assistance there.
Yes.
Now, like when we talked a couple days ago, you know, I hadn't seen Rent a Friend yet. I knew about it, and I was just blown away by it. And then, and then I see the comment. There's like 98,000 views on YouTube. Well, so after Rent a Friend, then that probably, because you were in the news, it was on Letterman, it was on Oprah, it was in People Magazine, it was in all the newspapers. I mean, you're on the map. So then how did that transition from that to Wild Chicago? I mean,
you really don't know?
Well, I
mean, you can be a smart interviewer and know the answer, you know.
Well, I think what I know about it is that I think John Davies sort of had a concept or wanted to do something late night, and then you were all of a sudden in the picture, like.
Yeah, I'm used to telling it in a rather condensed way.
Okay.
So I think I can do that. So how did Wild Chicago begin? And was it connected to Rent a Friend? And it was. In a big way. We were talking about that I was working for a company when I made Rent a Friend. That company went belly up. It was, you know, it's a startup. The guy with the money said, you know, we can't sustain this. We're gonna pull the plug. So, I was out of work, and I thought I'll go to L.A. First thing I thought was I get back into showbiz somehow. You know, I have a great calling card. So, but I'll get a job in advertising, and then I will, you know, navigate back into showbiz fast or slowly. But that's what I'll do. And my wife at the time was on board, my first wife. So I went out to LA. And part of what I would do, I got a lot of interviews, a lot of positive feedback, no job offer. But every time I showed my stuff with my copy and the ads I wrote, I also showed a little bit of Rent a Friend. And so many creative directors and senior copywriters would say, you know, Ben, your copy is good, and you know you come off as impressive and good potential, but this Rent a Friend thing, you know, this is wild. Like, why do you want to be in advertising? You ought to be on TV. And I would get a great jolt out of that.
Huh.
But I'd also be thinking, well, no, just hire me, you know.
Uh-huh.
I'm here to get a job in LA. So one day I was very tired of the interviews and the pounding the pavement and all. I was out there for like 2 or 3 weeks. And and by the way, that was the hardest I'd ever worked in my life.
I was gonna say, that's
trying to get a job in advertising. I mean, I had to come up with a campaign for myself, and all the phone calls, it was just something else, and it was a great effort. Well, and the proof's in the pudding from the rest of the story. You'll see. So, this one day, I was just saying, I'm not going to make any calls for advertising today. I'm going to call this guy I know from my high school, and he works at Paramount, and he's a vice president, and allegedly he can green light motion pictures. Maybe he could help me do something with Rent-A-Friend, or maybe he'll even think, hey, I'll make a movie out of this, you know. So I called the guy. And he said, yeah, I've heard of Rent-A-Friend. That's great. Can you send me a copy? So I set him up with a copy. And then we had an appointment. So I went to the Paramount lot. I remember that. And he said, this is actually, now I'm trying to remember, did I really go to the lot? But I had a conversation with him. And he said, it's great. It's fantastic. I don't, you know, what are you gonna do with this? You got to meet John Davies. He's made some short comedic films, and they've made it all the way to Saturday Night Live. Maybe he'll know what to do. And there's even a home video product out there. So Jim Belushi was in some of his little shorts. So
no idea.
So he says, I said, great. How do I meet him? You know, and he says, well, he's in Chicago. And I said, no,
geez.
I'm trying to move to LA, but I had to come back to Chicago for some R&R. I was house sitting, and people were coming home, and I had to vacate the house, of course. So I go back home, and I meet John Davies, and I show him Rent-A-Friend, and I'm thinking I'm going there to get help with Rent-A-Friend, and he says, this is weird, man. You're great on camera, but I don't know what to do with Rent-A-Friend. And how would you like to collaborate with me?
Wow.
And we can make a TV pilot together. And I said, I'm all in.
Yeah.
You know? What's LA? Forget about it. Because he had just gotten an assignment to do a late night show of some kind. And he didn't know exactly what it was. I hadn't formulated yet for him. And then I just walked in the door. And I was perfect because I was not from Second City main stage. The brass at TTW made it clear they don't want any big shot talents from the main stage, because they already act entitled, like they need everything. You know, you're unknown, no experience, but you got this, and I believe in you, so let's try it.
Wow.
So we did. That's how it began.
Man. That's that whole Rolling Stone concept, you know, just keep doing your thing.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how that all fell into place like that.
That's true.
Wow.
It's true. And like I mean, I'd grown up, always wanted to have my own show. And then I shelved the dream to go straight life with advertising and everything. And I was getting married too. That was all part of it. And this became a keynote talk that I would do about what we're talking about right now. And the message is that, you know, you may give up on your dream, but your dream doesn't give up on you. So you leave a little crack or something happens, all of a sudden it's going to come rushing back.
Oh, wow.
And it was alive as ever, and the pieces were in place then, you know, and so much that I couldn't even see, but was open to. So
wow, that's pretty profound right there. I had no idea how that came about. Like you said, you had your dream. I think you were 11 years old. You wanted to. You thought you could do Johnny Carson's job. And you kept at it. It's really incredible. Well, Ben, this has been spectacular. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we could say for another time. I know you did a lot of live shows and stuff too. Your What's It Like to Be You?
Oh yeah.
How the Beatles Nearly Ruined My Life. David Bowie Saved It.
Yeah.
Sex, Booze, and Candy Bars. Remember that one?
Well, that's the same show.
Oh, it is. Okay.
I changed the title 3 times or twice. I was my last run of my show was at the Annoyance Theater, known for edginess. So I thought, I need a new title for the Annoyance. How about Sex, Booze, and Candy Bars?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, I want to thank you so much for having me into your home like
Well,
this.
thank you,
It's
Dave.
been a real thrill and a pleasure. So.
Mine too. Yeah.
Well, thanks.
Rock on.
Rock on, man.
I was called here to excavate, to move this earth, to break these rocks of hate that cover